Okay, so I'll speak English and I'll be very slow if you need something to be translated. Since I'm working for more than 20 years, I was thinking what kind of thread I can choose today to talk a bit about my work, so that I'm not just showing you pieces, but maybe just to show how a certain idea develops through time in the work, and how this idea of weaving kind of exists in the work. Yeah? And the thread or the idea or the subject or the problem or that I chose for today is creating communities, or the idea of collective, and in this sense the idea of utopia and the idea of interdependence. Yeah. And so maybe, I have to say that I guess all of my pieces are somehow speaking about the collective, because maybe because I mostly worked in the context of theater, and the theater is, let's say, the place where we create artistic expression, always in a collective. Yeah, so you can never do theater alone, and you always have to be at least two, performer and spectator, but also there is a lighting person. You see what I mean? There is this idea of many or plenty that is inscribed in this place. So, and that is somehow in the convention of what theater is. So I think that's one of the first ideas why I naturally started to investigate that area. But it's also because I'm really interested in this notion of sharing and the notion of common. Yeah, so what we have in common, what is our common, how are we participating in the common, how are we engaged in the common. And in that sense, even when I made solos, they were always about us and never about me, somehow. Yeah, so maybe I can start with an example. It was a piece that I made really long time ago, in 2006. It's called While We Were Holding It Together, and it's a piece that is a tableau vivant. Tableau vivants are these formats where a group of people interpret an image, and so they are staying in the image. It's actually very interesting because the history of tableau vivant, it belongs, let's say, to end of 18th, beginning of 19th century, this kind of bourgeoisie that in order to have fun, they would gather, have dinner, and then they would represent all those different images that were known in that time. Yeah? So they were engaging in this kind of idea of the world, of the image, of the representation of a character, etc. And when I started working on this piece, I was thinking, what is the minimum that I can invite on stage in order to enter to some intense relationship with imagination and imaginary. Yeah. So actually what I did, I proposed to my colleagues, there were 5 of them, to engage in one single image for more than an hour. And basically what was happening is that they were holding that image, that's why it's called While We Were Holding It Together, and they were trying to imagine what are they representing. So every sentence started with, I imagine, yeah? And then they imagined all sorts of things. What are they doing? What are the others around them doing? And what you can see as a spectator. But because it's so minimal, the spectator, in order for her or him to make it any interesting, she or he have to invest also her or his imagination. Yeah, you will understand what I mean. I'll show you a little excerpt. Okay, so let's see, it is called, we're holding it together. I should go to 2 minutes 22. I don't see it. Is it, tell me, is it 2?
A bit.
Okay, it's okay. Yeah, so just to tell you, yeah, so this is the image. And this is Katja Dreyer, Jefta van Winter, Stefan Rokenbrand, Karen Royce-Kiewel, and Pere Faura, who you might know, because he's from Spain. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was made in 2006. And just show you a little.
I imagine we are standing in the middle of a forest. We are on a family weekend, and we haven't seen each other for a while. We just had lunch, and we are about to continue our trip up the hill.
I imagine we are wearing matching training suits. I'm bringing Aunt Hilda her tea.
I imagine I am a fox. This is the animal gathering. The bear, the wild cat, the tiger, and the rabbit are behind me.
I imagine we escaped from the zoo 3 days ago, and we are hungry. It's pouring rain. Our furs are soaking wet and smelly.
I imagine I am a 150-year-old oak tree.
I imagine a different position on my hand would have been a better choice.
I imagine I'm the commander of a special military unit. We are overlooking the forest in a mountainous region, possibly Kashmir or something like that. I have a big black moustache. My assistant Ahmed is bringing me my binoculars.
I imagine myself entering a room in a cheap hotel in Bangkok. In front of me, a young Oriental lady in school uniform happens to be relaxing on a straw mat.
I imagine I am sick. My mouth is dry. My muscles are in pain. I have fever and I feel slightly nauseous. I think I'm dying.
I imagine I'm standing on the number 38 bus.
I imagine I've been run over by the number 38 bus. I imagine my hip is broken.
I imagine snow is falling on us. Thick layers of snow.
So it goes on like this for an hour and more, like an hour and 10 minutes. And then all those different scenarios that start there develop. So, I don't know, then there is something that happens with the situation of the commander of a special military unit. All of a sudden, I don't know, they say somebody, like we are on a minefield and we heard click, but no one knows who stepped on it, you know. So there is all these things like afterwards, like for example, she will say, I imagine we are rock band on tour. We are now we would be Santa Cruz, Tenerife. The concert is about to start, but nobody knows when technicians are. And then in the next episode, you know, they would be in Tokyo with the band, and then their next one they would be. So there is a kind of, they are developing those nucleus stories, and they start to kind of create a notion of characters almost, but not in a kind of psychological sense, but really more like constructions, you know, that hold a quality, that hold well. But what is especially interesting, and it was very interesting for me also, is the relationship to the body and to the physical. Hola.
Hola.
And it was that basically this is the most physical piece I've ever made, which might sound a bit crazy because they don't move, but actually immobility is extremely physical, very difficult to do because it's not natural at all. Normally the body moves all the time, needs to move. The only time when it doesn't move is when the body is dead or when the body is a representation. So when the body is alive, it moves all the time. Evidently, they are moving also. They're moving with the eyes all the time. So that's basically, how they're also pointing out on where you should look. But also at a certain point, there is this involuntary movement that starts to happen. So like shaking and all that. Just to assure you, we work with the Alexander teacher. Alexander technique, it's a physical technique which kind of teaches you the, let's say, efficient usage of the body. And so to prevent the injury, we decided for the postures with the Alexander teachers so that they have sufficient amount of support, you know. And also, like, there are blackouts after every scene, let's say, which are like 30-second blackouts, and in those moments they're kind of doing a little bit of, but what is also interesting with this physical condition is that the spectators are affected by these physical conditions. So often the reaction of the people is either they are kind of by empathy, they are also standing still just to endure the same kind of violence in a way that those on stage are enduring, or they move very much more than usual to kind of compensate the fact that, And I mean, what is also, it was a bit of a manifesto, this piece, in that relationship also of how, how for a very, how one single thing presented for a very, very long time, and of course, in a certain way, it can kind of constantly produce new imaginary, new relations, new. So in that sense, it's a very ecological piece because it's renouvelable. It's how do you say it? Renewing,
refreshing.
Yeah, and it is very participatory in a way. Even though we don't ask the spectator to do nothing special, you know, the spectator is just sitting on the chair and watching. But if, as I said, if you don't invest yourself into that, if you don't imagine all those things that are suggesting, or if you don't look at them imagining these things, you have nothing. You are just like, so it's very, it's a proposition actually for It's like a pas de deux. You know? It's a dance between the spectator and performers. And I always thought, and therefore for me this idea of interdependency is very nice and interesting. It's not independency, it's not dependency, it's interdependency, because it's done by two. It always considers the other, and it kind of inscribes itself in the common. And I'm always saying that theater is never, or art in general, is never about something, it's between something. In this case, it's between the spectator and performer, between the stage and backstage, between the image and the text or the sound. So, and that's the areas that are unpredictable, that are invisible, that are alive, where real art happens. In fact, yeah, it's not in the object; it's in the gaze, in the meeting. Voila. And so, yeah, as we go, you can ask me questions, but maybe I'll then go to another work that is dealing with these issues a little bit differently. It is called Playing Ensemble Again and Again, and it's a piece that was basically done 2 years after this one, in 2008. Sorry, I just. Where are you? Yeah, I took this idea of togetherness more into the notion of theater itself, and I also wanted to work with. I showed the photo first. I wanted to work with. How can I do it bigger?
Maybe double click.
Okay, well, you see it, yeah? So it is from the back, those people. Maybe I'll show you. You will not be able to see it much. So, okay, I'll show you the video better. It's just because it's a very bad quality, the excerpt, but you will understand.
It's a special night. Tonight is a special night. It is my birthday. We are in Amsterdam and we all got 2 free tickets for tonight's show, but I had nobody to give them to.
There is a mistake here. This is not my place. I should be there. But that is how it goes in life. You miss your cue and it goes on without you. Sometimes I wonder if all this is worth fighting for.
So it's a very depressing part of the piece that they chose to put on the. Wait, I'm just gonna put this like that. I wanted to take a photo. Okay. Anyway, where are we? Yeah. So this piece, actually the whole piece is in slow motion, as you could notice. The video was bad quality, but it's however you could see, yeah? It's not because it's a very old video, so it goes like this. And actually what I did in this piece, I took a convention of a bow, yeah, of a, how do you say it in Spanish?
Sí, como un saludo, como
Yeah.
la idea de saludo.
Because there's a kind of meta choreography in every single show that you see, yeah, and we don't put it in question, like we always do it. It's a part of the, everybody expects it. It's like saying buenos dias or something like that. And I think that, for example, the tableau vivant is also a convention. It's also a form that is a convention. And so I took this convention and then I stretched it in time. So I did actually something that lasts for 5 minutes. Now lasted more than an hour. And basically the choreography was very clear. There was no like questions, why do they move like this or that, because we know where they have to move, you know. So basically they came 3 times on stage, and then they went out, and once again, and once again, and through this, they kind of tell a story of this collective that performs together. So when they come first time out, they are between 25 and 35 years old. When they come the second time, they are between 45 and 55, and last time when they come, they are very old. So basically there is this metaphor of a whole life that is done only in bowing. You never see the show, they're just talking about the show sometimes. So there is again this kind of notion of invisible. You have to imagine, yeah, like what has happened. And then this stretching of time kind of induces a very special physicality, and kind of you start to see things in between, yeah, something that you normally don't see, but now you suddenly see this also in this translation. In the physical creates also a special effect with the spectators, yeah. It's also very frontal piece. So if you go for like for an hour, if you go like, if you are laughing, you know, the thing is that people will start to react. So the people in the audience also start to, yeah, there is something is going. Yeah. I don't know what is going, but this is not what I want to show you. I want to show you the next one. Yeah, so it's it was something that in terms of this interdependence, it's also very interesting how, because they are all in a line, yeah, and they invest in this common body. It's a line that goes together, yeah, and so they always had to, because they had like their rhythm, proper rhythm. Sometimes they wanted to go forwards, but they had to all the time wait for the others. And it's when you slow things down, this is not the choreography that you can count with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No. And also this kind of tuning into this common rhythm is something that you see during the show. So this permanent negotiation. Also we work with the notion of place and placement, because in the beginning, when the guy says it's not my place, he was on the edge of the line, because in the first entrance he was in the middle. And then if you take this concept of time, you know, that means that when he was from 25 to 35, he was promising he was in the middle of the line, because in the convention of the bowing, those who are in the middle are the more important, in a kind of very traditional idea of theater, you know, and hierarchy of representation, yeah. And so the next time, the guy in the middle, Pedro, he kind of, he went a bit faster, so he came to the middle. So you have, in a very simple gesture, a whole story about achievement, ambition, yeah, without doing it at all psychological. It's a physical thing, right? So I'm very interested in that, like how to tell stories also, yeah, through some kind of very simple physical relations and compositions. And, well, okay, this is another piece that was done in 2012. It's called In Common, and there, I mean, I kind of literally worked with, you know, the notion of common and how we invest in that, and I also specifically worked through the notion of language, you know, how language can work, and also there were some ideas about identity politics, identification, representation also in that sense, like socio-political, let's say. Huh? And actually the whole piece is divided in different stages, we call it, not episode or chapters, but stages. And each stage is actually a game, a real game that they play, like for real, you know. So the choreographic structures are coming from playing games. As you can see, like I work a lot with the same people for a long time. For a long time I lived in Amsterdam, and so there was this group of people that I collaborated for like more than 10 years. And now I moved to France, and then you will see now I also work with the same people for many years, but Irina is one of the people I work with. So, yeah. But I just want to show you one game, so you will understand, and I can tell you. Allora, I have to go to 5 minutes and 45. Is it 5 minutes?
5 minutes 41.
Okay.
You have to press me.
No.
Stage 2. Community of Winners.
I am unique.
We are unique.
I am unique and independent.
We are unique and independent.
I am unique, independent, and rebellious.
We are unique, independent, and rebellious.
I am unique, independent, rebellious, and sophisticated.
We are unique, independent, rebellious, and sophisticated.
I am unique, independent, rebellious, sophisticated, and gay-friendly.
We are unique, independent, rebellious, sophisticated, and gay-friendly.
I am unique, independent, rebellious, sophisticated, gay-friendly, and a pacifist.
We are unique, independent, rebellious, sophisticated, gay-friendly pacifists.
I am a unique, independent, rebellious, sophisticated, gay-friendly, pacifistic nature lover.
We are unique, independent, rebellious, sophisticated, gay-friendly, pacifistic, nature lovers.
I am a unique, independent, rebellious, sophisticated, gay-friendly, pacifistic, nature-loving narcissist.
We are unique, independent, rebellious, sophisticated, gay-friendly, pacifistic, nature-loving narcissists.
I am unique, independent, rebellious, sophisticated, gay-friendly, pacifistic, nature-loving, narcissist, and constipated. We are unique, independent, rebellious, sophisticated, gay-friendly, pacifistic, nature-loving, narcissistic, and constipated.
Yes. I am a unique, independent, rebellious, sophisticated, nature-loving, pacifistic, narcissistic, constipated Sagittarius. I am the winner.
I am a brother.
We are brothers.
I am a gay brother.
We are gay brothers.
I am a tall gay brother.
We are tall gay brothers. You are not tall enough.
I am the winner.
I am romantic.
We are romantic.
I am romantic and Portuguese.
We are romantic and Portuguese.
I am romantic, Portuguese, and a smoker.
We are romantic Portuguese smokers.
I am a romantic Portuguese smoker, and I believe that the crisis will soon be over. I am the winner.
I am German.
I am the winner.
I am from the 80s.
We are from the 80s. I am from the 80s, and I'm an opportunist. We are from the 80s, and we are opportunists.
I am from the 80s, I am an opportunist, and I am allergic to cats, dogs, pollen, dust, tomatoes, bananas, and peanuts. I am the winner.
I am afraid of dogs. We are afraid of dogs.
I am afraid of dogs, and I am a compulsive liar.
We are afraid of dogs, and we're compulsive liars. I'm afraid of dogs, I'm a compulsive liar, and I'm an aristocrat. I am the winner.
I am Northern European.
We are Northern Europeans. I am a Northern European, and I don't have an appendix. I am the winner.
I am an exceptional cook.
We are exceptional cooks.
I am an exceptional cook, and I was a child star. I am the winner.
I am gifted with perfect eyesight. I am the winner.
I am still here. I am the winner.
So, I mean, if you want to continue, you can watch it on my website. There is the whole show, so you can continue. Yeah, because afterwards there is like there is a part which is called Sweet Tyranny, where they have to repeat some like words. Then there is also a part which is about democracy, where each of them has one kind of words that they can use, and they try to make sentences together, which is quite impossible, and also, yeah. So and this is that I made this piece literally at the same moment that we made while we were holding it together. Yeah, but okay. Questions, or shall I go on? Okay. So I don't know. In this whole period, I think I was a lot reproducing some kind of systems that would put into question like different type of repression, different type of, I don't know, the problems that came through a very condensed or a very minimalist way of operating on the scene, on stage. Yeah. So there are a lot of like protocols and patterns and things like that I used. And then, let's say, from 2015 on, I started to more engage into, or was more interested in narrations that were closer, let's say, to conversations. And I started to be interested in conversations because I thought it's a very nice way to open spaces, open associations, because conversation, unlike the dialogue, is not something that has a very fixed goal. You know, when you're in a conversation, the conversation is really like a river. Yeah, there is a lot of detours and it goes different ways, and then they come back to the main point you started. And the dialogue is more like, you know, I have a point, you have a point, and we are trying to like negotiate our terms. Yeah. So the conversation for me was also a very interesting way to enter in this area of how we create knowledge outside of, let's say, institutionalized formats, outside of, let's say, scientific mode, more through using intuition, imagination, voila, this kind of qualities. And so in 2017, I have made a piece which is called Conversations Out of Place. And that was the piece where I tried to create a reflection on the relationship we have with nature, but not with nature, but with the representation of nature. So how, because evidently humans are part of nature and all that, but we also produce representations of nature that kind of changed through the different moments in the humanity. And I started to be there very also involved with all these ecological issues. I was happy to, in 2017, to meet a really inspiring person. He's a gardener in the Parc de la Villette, which is a very big garden, public park in Paris. I was in residency there because they have a theater, and then every morning I would go to see him, and then we would have coffee, and then we talked about different things, like sometimes about expressions that are like a polysemantic expressions that come from the world of plants and botanics and all that, and that I used, let's say, in the socio-political context, the idea of, I don't know, implants, the idea of symbiosis, the idea of parasites, the idea of, voila. And he introduced me to permaculture. So, you know, permaculture is this way of thinking the gardening and also like how to organize the growing of the plants without torturing the plants, without wanting to put things in boxes, but let the nature, let's say, create its own rhythms, its own associations, etc. And I have to say that it was a very important meeting in my life. And then I started to use this idea of permaculture a lot in my work as well. Because it's also like when you create artistic practice, it's almost a kind of garden that you are creating. And there are very interesting, like, philosophical ideas in the notion of, like, let's say, the main principles in permaculture. Like, you know, to let's say, to invest in the margin, to look at the very small, to try not to use too much energy, to kind of rely on the energies that are there, not to produce the waste. So, I mean, not to produce the waste, we can translate it in a different way. We can think about concrete trash, but we can also think like, what is the waste in my work? And how can I, let's say, recycle it and make it not being the waste, or things like that. So I think it really refreshed my practice. And so in this piece, which is called Conversations Out of Place, I also worked with this idea of recycling. So I recycled one element from each of the pieces I've made before. So you will see there is a slow motion. There is a tableau vivant, which is actually kind of constantly moving and coming back. I've made a piece in 2010 which is called 60 Minutes of Opportunism, where I was wearing a backpack. And so they are wearing backpacks, all of them. But it's also a piece that was very much influenced by romantic landscape painting, because you know the Romantics, they had like a very strong relationship to representation of nature. That was one of the very important points. And so in every landscape painting of the 19th romantic landscape painting, there are always four elements. There is the element of mineral, like rocks or like mountains, something like that. The element of vegetal, so like trees or voila. The water, and animals or humans. And so actually the whole piece is a creation of a landscape. So in the beginning there is just one plant, and at the end there is a landscape with water, with mountains, with voila. And all of this is happening in slow motion, and all the resources, except for the plant, are coming, and the water, are coming from the backpacks. So there is also this idea of interdependence, but also kind of survival, and yeah. I can show you a little bit. Normally Irina is performed also in this piece, but not in the version I'm showing you here. The other very important influence for this piece was, I don't know if you know, there is this type of photography that comes, I think also from the 19th century. It's called, not photography, painting, which is called conversation pieces. And it's actually the painting that represents a family or a group of friends or people in a conversation. And often in the beginning it was in a kind of garden or some natural environment, or later it was also in the living rooms, in salons, but always with plants. And it's very interesting because these plants were always actually the plants that came from the colonies. So you know, you kind of this idea of colonizing with plants or colonizing plants, it was also part of this whole introspection. And you will see like the plants we are using in the work. Where are you? Do you see? Do you see conversation? This one?
No conversations. Maybe this one.
Okay, yeah. And then there is like, where are you guys? Conversation, English word. Okay. Is this starting?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to add one thing. Yeah. You will see, I wanted to create this notion of a forest with only one tree. Because again, of the smallest amount of resources I have to use in order to represent something. And it was a very interesting process because I was thinking like what kind of tree I can use. And my friend, the gardener, you know, like I asked him, so what do you think? And he said, well, I think that the tree is a very bad idea because if you tour in January, the tree will be a very sad representation of a forest because there are no leaves and trees, you know, in order for it that it really looks like a tree, it has to be a bit older tree. And those trees are often not in a pot. And if they are very fragile and they're very expensive. So I had to think what kind of, and I definitely didn't want to have a fake tree, you know, like I wanted to have a presence of a real plant and see what does it do to us, what does it, how this presence can influence our way of thinking or being, and also because I wanted to work with this temporality of plants. Because, you know, plants, we say plants don't move. They do move, but they don't move at the same rhythm that the animals, like us, are moving, yeah? So this whole idea also influenced the fact that it was, again, a piece in slow motion, aside from the fact that it was also a recycled element from the piece that I showed you before. Okay, so I don't know, it's like 3 minutes 20. Do you see it?
Yeah, 3:13. Yeah, like 3:22.
Don't think that I'm a lunatic. I checked it before, and that's why I know it. It's not that I know exactly.
It feels like we've already been here before.
Really? I can't recognize anything.
It's true. There is the same kind of vegetation and the same smell of moss.
Yes, you're probably right.
You smell it?
Yes, clearly.
Once, a really long time ago,
Yes?
I got lost in a forest with a group of friends.
Mm-hmm.
We parked the car next to the hunter's cottage, and then we went walking. And when we came back, we couldn't find it anymore.
Mm.
What kind of car was it?
It was a Peugeot 205.
Oh, French car.
It was a good car. And somehow we found ourselves in front of a small stream. And we knew that by following that stream, we could reach the cottage. But we didn't know which direction to take anymore.
Oh, yeah?
So we walked 5 minutes in one direction, and then 5 minutes back. And then 6 minutes to the other direction, and 6 minutes back.
Okay, and then?
And then 7 minutes to the first direction, and 7 minutes back, and so on.
Smart.
I don't know if it was the best thing to do, but to us at this moment, it seemed like the most efficient method. And it was then that I ate my first wild plant.
Why? Why did you eat a wild plant?
I think it was to convince myself I would be able to keep going for a long time.
And what was it, you remember?
I remember the taste of it.
Was it good?
Was it spicy?
It had a kind of minty taste. It was a sort of parasite that grows at the foot of a tree.
Maybe it was a chewing gum.
Maybe a very, very old chewing gum, but I don't think so.
And Did it do anything to you?
Not really. Just gave me courage, that's all.
Apparently, there's a plant you should eat if you are lost in a forest and you are scared you won't be able to find your way.
Which one?
It's called a hawthorn.
How?
Hawthorn.
Are you sure you pronounced it well?
No, I'm not sure. It's spelled Hawthorn.
Hawthorn.
Hawthorne was a poet too, actually.
What did he write?
Poetry, I guess.
Well, how do I recognize a hawthorn?
Hawthorn?
Yeah.
It has white petals.
Aren't they pink?
No, white. Its fruit is red. It's a sort of thorny shrub.
Thorny what?
Thorny shrub. It can be used in cases of insomnia or anxiety.
Oh, interesting.
So, let's say I'm lost in a forest and I'm scared.
Yes.
I find a hawthorn. If I don't make a mistake and pick another plant instead, I eat it, I calm down, I fall asleep, and I'm no longer scared, right?
Yes. Well, but you are still lost.
I think we are all a bit lost here.
Can you please wait for me? I'm a bit late. I'm coming as fast as I can.
Okay.
It's okay, don't worry.
Thank you.
Take your time.
It's very beautiful here, isn't it? I mean, the landscape is really amazing.
You know, sometimes after a long walk, you get rewarded with a beautiful landscape.
You know, once I met a professor, a Vietnamese professor. He was traveling in Europe and we were on a train in Greece.
Are you sure there are still trains in Greece?
Yes, there were trains. He told me many things, but I remember he said that the reason why people in Vietnam always resisted their invaders was because they had very resistant stomachs. They could digest nearly anything. And during the long nights where they were hiding in the jungle, waiting to surprise the enemy, they would eat only plants, animals, insects, and it didn't make them sick. In fact, it even made them more alive.
I think I saw something like this in a movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In any case, it's a good lesson in strength, no? To know how to rely on nature to resist the enemy.
It makes me think of this movie by this Japanese director.
Which one?
The one who made The Seven Samurai.
Kurosawa.
Yes, Kurosawa. The film that takes place in Siberia.
Oh yes, Derzu Uzala, that's the title.
Exactly.
Very, very beautiful.
Your story makes me think of Apocalypse Now.
Really? Oh, that's creepy.
No, why?
All that violence.
No, all that nature.
All those war machines.
Oh, all those colors.
All that money.
And Wagner.
All this makes me think that while our survival is totally dependent on nature, nature doesn't really need us to survive.
Strange. I think that if nature didn't need us, it wouldn't have invented us. Right?
So I stop here. So it goes, and actually, you see the idea is that you have all the time images being created almost not by chance. I mean, they are following patterns, but then they transform because they go slow. They transform into, you can see them as animals, or you can see whatever you want. And it's this idea of anticipation. They know that they have to arrive there, or they have to do something with their jumper. Like they have to develop it for 10 minutes, create a lot of space and a lot of potential, in fact, for the imagination, imaginary, etc. So just to come back, so the plant we are always using is called Monstera deliciosa. You know it, probably it grows here in a natural environment. And why I finally chose that one, because even though it's from the family of like lianas, with this thing, like it can be put upside, straight up in a vertical position. It has big leaves, so it reminds of a tree in some ways. So there is no notion of a forest without a tree. So, and it's also because it's the most bought plant in the Northern Europe for decoration. So it's a plant that was actually grown and made to be in closed spaces. Because to put a plant in a theater, they don't like it very much. It's really like, after a couple of days, they all get like, and so I thought, okay, well, she was made to resist this kind of environment and these kind of conditions. And also I thought if she goes a bit bad, like, okay, it's not the end of the world. I mean, she will manage to pick up. And also, you know, it's an invasive plant on Seychelles and in Mexico and everywhere, so it's a survivor. It's a survivor, so wow. And it's very, very funny because a lot of people, like, even though there is only one plant, when they speak to me about the memory of the show, they always say the piece where you have trees on stage, like a forest on stage. Because actually they are talking about a forest, but there is no forest, there is just one tree, you know. So it's very interesting how this, how this connects. And you see, so there is also a tableau, so there is always one person here, and two people there. And so choreographically speaking, every time they go from, for example, she would go from this place, she started here, you know, and so she came here, and he started here, he came here. She was here and she came there, he was here and she came. And so every time they just change from A, B, C, or D. So choreographically speaking, I mean, it was quite easy to determine the patterns. And afterwards, they're doing specific things on the way. Yeah. I just want to say something like, I am a choreographer, and I always, when they ask me, so what are you? Because I work with these different forms in my work, yeah. So lectures, I work with books, I work with something like you did yesterday, which is, I don't know what it is, a reading. But I work also stage performances. But I'm never doing dance, actually. I'm doing choreographies, yeah. And also, I'm thinking about the notion of choreography in a bit of an extended way. So for me, it's not only movements in space and time by a dancer or a group of dancers, but if I put into question the notion of a body, what can be a body? For me, a book can be a body, a text can be a body, a community can be a body, all those, yeah. And then when we treat them, or when we engage into that with the same notions like we do when we choreograph like dances, that can give like very surprising also ideas of what the movement can be, yeah. So in that sense, because movement can be a small gesture, but it can also be a big political movement. I mean, the notion of movement is very extensible. Voila. Well, I think I told you a lot about this.
Good.
Is there a pattern in the duration of the pieces? Because it's more or less like some of them are 60 minutes.
I mean, because I show you now only stage works, you know. But for example, I do like the piece. One piece is called Notes. Actually, it's a practice, and that one lasts for 10 years. Or you know, like yeah. For example, it's true. Like yesterday's piece. that one is kind of variable. The shortest version was 47 minutes. Yesterday we did 52 minutes. But the longest one was 1 minute 20. It really depends on what happens. So that one is around an hour, but you are right. Most of the stage works is around an hour. The very last piece that we premiered in December, that's a bit longer. That's like 1 hour and 50.
But
Yeah.
I think this is also some kind of convention
Yes.
in theater,
Yeah.
like production-wise. You always, the artists, they always work with 60 minutes idea. Then you have some artists, they go further. Maybe nowadays it's also quite possible
yeah.
to do this kind of 24-hour pieces
yeah.
and so. But many years ago, this wouldn't be so much valid, so to say. Most of the time,
I think it's not like it's in waves, you know. Because, for example, I don't know, in the 80s, people would also do shows that lasted for 5 days, or I don't know. Yeah, it depends a bit. I mean, it's very difficult to dance for more than 1 hour. You know, like if you have to dance for 3 hours or 4 hours, you're. I don't know. I guess for the moment, you know, that's the format that was working in terms of what I wanted to develop as ideas and yeah.
I was wondering what you say about the choreography, because you know, as I was watching this, it really felt like it was like so organic as an impro. And you said every position is marked, so it forms like a tableau, like an image.
You mean this piece?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not fixed. I mean, just a point of departure and point of arrival is fixed.
And the phrases they're saying and the turns.
This is fixed. This is fixed. The text is fixed. Yeah, the text is completely fixed. No, it's not true. It's fixed, but if they want, they can add on. Because we realize that it's very difficult to perform it fresh if you just have to say the text. So there is this notion that you can always add on. So you are not really waiting for your cue. You are really listening of what the person is saying. I don't know. Something like that. No, Irina?
Yes.
No. Irina was performing this part. Okay. I mean, this is only 2017. I also have another piece which is like very interesting in terms of interdependence, where people are connected with ropes. It's called Forces of Nature. And at the end, there is only these ropes and a little monticule, how do you say this?
Como un montículo.
Yeah, of ropes. And they create a mountain together. Because they are doing tissage, like they are weaving during the show. Yeah, on stage. And at the end, they make a mountain. But I would need at least 15 minutes to talk about this, so it's too much. Irina is also performing in that piece. and the last piece that I did, which was in December, was the premiere. It's called Slowly, Slowly Until the Sun Comes Up. And there I worked for the first time with the 4 fronts. I mean, We Are Still Watching is also in 4 fronts, but nothing is happening in the middle. I mean, here I was really composing something, And we, for this display in space, and we have created an environment in which people are sitting in the set design, you know, in the set. So there is no notion of stage and audience. I mean, people are inside, and everything is covered with fabrics, with textile. Okay. And actually, when people are coming in, we ask them to take the shoes off, and we give them socks. So everybody gets the socks that you put on your own socks. So and the socks is the same color like the. So it looks like when the people are standing, that material grew like on the. And then people are sitting or they are laying, or so there is like physical engagement of the spectators is much more relaxed. And the piece is during the whole piece, the 3 performers, they're telling the dreams. So it's a continual yeah, telling of dreams kind of thing. And what they're doing, so in the beginning there is this one layer of clothes, and then at a certain point, you don't realize it as a spectator, actually there are zippers. And they open this and they start to take out other fabric. And so there is 7 layers of fabric, and they are constantly just working with hands, they are working the textile. So it's very tactile. The whole piece is only about touching all the time. And you can touch also the same material. So it's very synesthetic, you know. They are talking about this, they are touching, there is a lot of this. Everybody goes out with like big smile, everybody's very relaxed. And because I also work with this idea of repairing tensions, because they say that in dreams we repair what's wrong in the daily life. And so this was also a little bit the kind of the frame through which we were creating this piece. And yeah, like, so the space is transforming. It's also a bit of a landscape in a way. It's transforming all the time, and at a certain point there's this huge black fabric which is made of velour.
Terciopelo.
Yeah, like in theater, you know. And actually they take it out and they open it, and so everybody, all the spectators are under it, like that. So it's almost like we are all in the same bed, like everybody's covered with the same. And then naturally people start to move it, and then it starts to be like completely wild. And yeah. And the idea is also that the dreams are not individual dreams, so I was not interested in this, let's say, maybe more a known or conventional idea of dreams that are analyzing a person, you know, like all this Freudian tradition, you know. I wanted to engage into a possibility of creating a collective dream, something like that we dream together. And that moment is a bit like that, like we are part of the same dream. Yeah. Voila. And then for me that is also very much based on this common and also engaging and also interdependent and a kind of utopia in a way. And why I was interested in this space of dreams, because I think that the spaces, the physical spaces in which we live, are more and more surveyed and controlled and sort of formalized, or being, you know, like the physical spaces and also internet, you know. These are two spaces where we spend a lot of time. And then I was thinking, what are the spaces which are left where we could be free, whatever that means. And then I definitely thought about the dreams. And I think that dreams are really part of our life, and they're as much as important as the daily life that we live. Because we sleep 1/3 of our life, and everybody sleeps, even animals sleep, and they dream also. So I think that's also something that's very like democratic. Everybody. And by the way, lately, I don't know if you know this, there is a very interesting book, I'm reading it now, from this Afro-American writer. Her name is Tricia Hersley, and it's called Rest is Resistance. I really can, I recommend it. And she kind of says that basically we are all sleep deprived, and we are all exhausted, and we are also pushed to not to sleep enough or rest enough. And she also connects it with her own, let's say, history and past, because she says that the capitalism in the United States started on the cotton fields, you know, and where they were using like people of Afro-American origin like as slaves, and they were depriving them from sleeping. And she said when every time she takes a nap, she reclaims back what was taken from her and from her people. So, but it's also really interesting. I mean, she made this blog which is called Ministry of Naps. So it's really it's very, very interesting. Also, this area of how do we exist in different modes. But for me, especially interesting how we exist together in different modes. With those questions like, okay, if we now, for example, all make a big effort and try to dream of each other next night. You know, is it possible or not? We did it. You remember when we were writing Forces of Nature?
Yes, I remember.
Because during the COVID time, we were writing this piece, Forces of Nature, and then I suggested, okay, we cannot be together, and let's try to meet each other in dreams. And nobody met each other in dreams, but we were all dreaming of trying to find somebody, or I was really dreaming that I was trying to find them, but I kept on finding other people, and yeah, it was very funny. Yeah, which also kind of goes to all those different ideas of what reality is or what fiction is, and also, I mean, if you think of other traditions, you know, that those places are not so rigidly separated, that are much more soft or much more, yeah.
Right, in a way, no?
Yeah, also, you know, like, what for me was fantastic in this piece is that I was so free when I was writing also, because anything could happen at any moment. There were no this kind of, all the time, this thing of consequence of something that you did will lead to, you know, this kind of very rigid dramaturgies. So suddenly they could start dancing or they could start singing, and we didn't have to explain why, because in dreams you don't explain why, they just happen, you know? So there was something very rejoicing, and also there was a kind of reparation in that sense too. Yeah. Voila. I would end with this. Thank you. I mean, if you have questions, we still maybe have 5-10 minutes, and otherwise, yeah, sun is back.
Do you have some image?
Of that piece?
Of the last piece.
I do. I didn't. So this was the beginning, which was very kind of ritualized when people come to the. I just.
Plus petit que ça, un peu. Bon, de loin. Et il y a une femme qui est là, qui les surveille. Et elle vient vers moi et elle me tend des seaux d'eau. Et l'eau est marron. Et voilà, on fait des seaux comme ça, enfin, on jette plutôt l'eau sur les chevaux.
Then afterwards, you know, this. I just show you different moments, how it transforms.
Vous regardez avec une sorte de béatitude et bienveillance, c'est ça. Alors je me suis dit, non, c'est autre chose, peut-être qu'ils sont là.
Très souvent. Yeah, there was this composition. I wanted to tell you, I was really influenced by Annie Alves, you know, with this kind of ways of putting.
Like a tapestry. Like a tapestry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dans mon rêve, je suis dans un vestiaire avec un.
So yeah, I just show you different moments.
Smoking, des femmes.
Yeah, and there is this object which is constantly going down, and you don't realize it first, but it's coming more and more down, and at the end it's really like.
Like the light of the onyx or something, like the ceiling coming down.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see how they are also like connected by the feet with the socks and
Se dirige vers la tête, qui devient une espèce de.
What?
Après, je le tourne, je gifle, il me dit arrête de jouer avec le kleps.
I mean, I'm just doing it like very randomly, like just clicking into something. Yeah, they're doing like a very long time. They're just doing grimaces, like it's very strange. And I would never allow myself to do this in my previous works, but now because it's a dream, I could just go for it. And I was like, yes, you know. They're even dancing in one part, but really like crazy, you know. So it's very nice.
It's good to go against oneself, like rules, so to say. You give yourself.
I mean, they're changing, you know. They're evolving as I'm evolving.
No, but it's true that you yourself as an artist sometimes just give yourself the allowance to cross that.
There is also sometimes the voices are changing. Like we have this, it's a stupid gadget, you know. So there are some moments like this.
I really like when you space for imagination. Because sometimes performance art is like way too serious, like cold eyes,
Yeah. Yeah, I like very much humor. I think it creates distance.
Et donc, on arrive sur le quai.
Yeah.
Et là, il y a un mec, un type.
I just want to show this part when there's this big black thing. That's the big black thing.
Je pouvais voir comme toute une brochette de visage.
So she's describing actually what they are doing. There's a kind of dream.
Comme un carrefour où je croisais le rêve de tous ces gens.
Non.
Je pouvais dire ce dont rêvaient tous ces gens. J'étais traversée par leur rêve. Une personne là.
And there is also sound that was very important. The sound of the fabric, the sound that
une autre rêvait qu'elle faisait une crise cardiaque. Bon, ça c'est que dans mon rêve, on est d'accord. Une autre.
You see this? I don't know if you can see it. You see it?
Yeah.
It's like a sea and
Like
so
wave.
they are doing it. And actually the performers are underneath. And then every time people say, I really wanted to go under also, but I didn't dare. And like, yeah, so it's very... And then I show you the... I never show a piece like this. So you need, that's also another way of, just taking layers off. So there's, the last is like really white and... and there was this metaphor that we were working with. That this is like a field that they were laboring, because in the beginning it's all, and at the end it's like this thing is like, when you have the hay, like in la botte de paille, I don't know how to say
Ils m'ont répondu, clic, et c'est envoyé les vieilles histoires, les vieilles rancœurs, les clic, et c'est apaisé. Et c'est fou, à quel point de faire ça, clic, 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 clic. Et bien c'est très satisfaisant. Mais c'est bien en tout cas. Mais beau notre chant. On a bien travaillé.
You see, it's really low now, the whole thing.
Oh,
I think this is very nice.
le dernier rêve.
So this is the last
Ça aurait
dream.
dû peut-être.
Before when you wake up, he
J'ai
says,
vu tout le monde.
I dreamed that I loved everybody.
Carrément tout le monde.
Really
Quand
everybody.
je croisais le regard d'une
And when
personne,
I crossed the gaze of somebody, I would say, I love you.
je t'aime.
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 I love you too also.
Je t'aime. Je t'aime. Et quand je disais ça, hop.
And when I said this, they flew away.
Que cuando decía eso, al que decía te quiero, la persona desaparecía.
It's envolé. It's like a... Yes.
Well, thank you very much.